Well, I thought some people might be interested in how much the weight of some of the Soviet gas masks are, so that's exactly what we're going to look at in this video. Now, I weigh a GP5 filter to begin with, but I'm going to use the FP5 filter on all these masks, which weighs around 260 grams. The reason being that, obviously, I would not encourage you to use the original Soviet filters with your masks. With the PBF, it's going to have to just be weighed as the PBF, because obviously it's got cheek filters in. The first two masks I can probably weigh on this scale, but then I need to go to a less accurate scale for the others, just due to the size of it. Annoyingly, my SHMS and my GP5Ms, or sort of PMG2s, are in a place I can't get them at the moment. I've not lost them or anything, I know exactly where they are, but they're just really difficult to get at. But the weight of them is going to be very similar to some of the other masks anyway, so what I want to do is show you a broader range. Anyway, I also get the PMG1 out in a moment, but I've not got enough space at the moment to do that here. So anyway, to start the video off, let's have a look at the weight of a GP5 filter. And obviously, with all these masks, depending on what size they are, will affect the weight a little bit. The bigger the size, the more they'll weigh by a little bit. Not loads. Okay, let's turn the scale on. Right, that's on 0 grams. As you can see, this is sealed. Obviously the caps add a bit of weight to it, but that is about 265 grams for that sealed. And obviously if I take that off and put the FP5 filter on, you'll see that's 267 grams. So when you take the caps off the FP5 filter, it is pretty much the same weight as what a GP5 filter would be. That does feel slightly heavier to me, the GP5 filter, but whatever. Anyway, let's get on with the video. Okay, first for the GP5 on the FP5 filter. Hopefully he'll stand up on his own. There we go, and that weighs 589 grams, as you can hopefully see. 589. So, that means that the GP5 with a filter is 589 grams, very lightweight. Obviously, if you take the 260 odd grams away from the filter, that means that you're really only looking at about something like 300 grams for the GP5. It's not very heavy at all, so yeah, very impressed with that. As I said, if you were to use a GP5, they are lightweight good masks in that regard. Now let's go to the PMG, because I think part of the PMG's name meant it was actually a lightweight infantry mask, so let's have a look at that. Okay, now for the PMG mask, you know, the Metra Cop one, let's turn that on. Get this bag a bit more out of the way, and let's sit it on its filter. Just need to try and get all those straps to sit over the mask rather than off of it. But you're looking at nearly 700 grams for that, so although it's called lightweight infantry mask, it's not actually all that lightweight. So yeah, obviously that's not the most accurate scale to do these masks on. In a moment I'll get out the bigger scale, but that's actually less accurate in its reading because it jumps per 10 grams. But I'd say you're looking at about 700 grams for a PMG with the filter attached to it. So again, that's not super heavy compared to some of the NATO masks. That's about 200 grams lighter for a very similar setup. Obviously I think the latex of the Soviet masks makes them a fair bit lighter than having masks made from butyl rubber and stuff like that, but obviously butyl rubber would give you a better level of protection. But that is what it is, and yeah, if its name in English is something like lightweight gas mask, then it does kind of deserve that name because it is very light. Okay, now for the baby scale. So what we're going to do on here is first put the PBF with its entire bag on, because I'm just sort of interested in the entire satchel, how much that weighs for the that. Okay, so that's 1.07 kilos, so 1 kilo and 70 grams, or 1,070 grams for the PBF with its actual bag. Let's take it out of the bag and look at the actual mask itself's weight. Put it there. Okay, so that's 780 grams. So for a cheek filter mask, that's not a bad weight at all, actually. If you remember when we did the M10 the other day, I think that was close to a kilo. It was between 900 grams and a kilo. I'm sure an M17 would weigh something like that as well. At some point I will do probably Americans and more NATO masks weighing them, because I think these are quite interesting videos. But with both the cheek filters in, that's just under 800 grams, about 780 grams, 790 grams, so the scale keeps going between them. And that's for a mask with a voice diaphragm in and everything else, so yeah. Quite impressed by that. That is actually a fairly lightweight cheek filter mask compared to a lot of them. Obviously it's bulky at the sides, but it is at least not stupidly heavy. Now for a mask you know I don't like, it's the PMK. I've got the FP5 filter on it. Okay, so that weighs about 930 grams, 940 grams. So the PMK is a very similar weight with a filter on it to things like an S10 would be, or most modern masks. The issue being, obviously, this is nowhere near the quality of an S10, but that is kind of impressive because it's got the outserts and everything on it as well, and the drinking tube, so it is managing to, you know, stay at a weight like that with all the bit off. But obviously, this is not made from the same quality sort of rubber as things like, you know, modern military masks are made from, things like the Forshedas or the Avon masks. So what have we learnt from this is that the Soviet masks are typically actually quite lightweight, especially things like the GP5, where the weight of that was something like 300 grams, wasn't it, on its own? You know, so that is a very lightweight mask. Obviously the filter is always going to add weight on, and you can't use a mask without a filter, so it seems pointless to me to, you know, consider the weight of a mask without filters, because you need to always do it with a filter to get a like-for-like comparison. Because, for example, if I weighed these masks like this and I weighed a cheek filter mask with the filters in it, that'd be totally unfair. I know I could weigh cheek filter masks without the filters in, but again, what's the point in that? So, hopefully you found this sort of interesting, because it obviously does tell you the weight of what some of this stuff is like. Obviously, the lighter a gas mask, the better. However, you don't want one where the filter will flip around. It's not too bad on this, although the mask is made of that stupid wobbly kind of rubber. But the point is, you know, it's like, that's one of the things I don't like about the original PMG, is as much as it's a cool mask, having a side-loading filter where it's only connected via a rubber kind of screw is a bit stupid, because the filter always pulls weight to one side. So I'm not surprised that with the PMG2 it was cheaper to make a GP5 type thing. So there you have it. As I said, hopefully you found this a bit interesting. And as I said before, FP5 filters are very good. I would recommend them, because you can still often buy them that are actually in date as well. So the ones I've got are from B-Store, but there are other eBay sellers that sell them. Sadly, I think a few people have told me in the US that they can't actually really find any for sale that will ship to the US, so that's a bit unfortunate. I don't know what options you'd actually have if you're in America then and can't get FP5 filters. There are modern Russian ones that probably are as good as the FP5 filters, but the problem is the modern Russian ones seem to have even more postage on them. So, you know, rather than paying about £10 to £12 for one of these filters, you're going to be looking at paying like £40 for them. But anyway, yeah, sum up this video. Soviet masks, especially the latex style ones, are actually quite lightweight and useful. Obviously, if you had the big canisters on the hose with them, that would be in your satchel, so the mask would feel even lighter, but you obviously have to bear in mind that you've got a hose attached to it. But yeah, overall, these, you know, masks aren't all that heavy, and, you know, people make fun of the Soviet masks, but they're actually fairly good for what they are, at least some of them, not this thing. Yeah, I think that sums it up. They aren't too heavy if you're looking for a lightweight mask.